Kasulaya.
The film begins in 1983, deep in a forest in Yogyakarta. A group of people are chanting rituals as they wash a dead body and wrap it in a burial shroud. The scene then cuts to 1996, where a man takes something out of a chest and shows it to his grandson, Hao. The grandfather explains that it's a lontar leaf, something that was used for writing during the ancient Mopo hit era. He calls it a catalyst. Then he gives Hao a special instruction. While he is meditating and traveling into another world, Hao must watch over his physical body. After that, the grandfather begins meditating very carefully. A little while later, Hao's mother tells him that Rita is waiting outside. Hao looks at her through the window and leaves his grandfather alone to go meet her. Meanwhile, something enters the grandfather's room and the lontar leaf flies out through the window. Then something strange starts happening to the grandfather's body. The scene cuts to 2013. Hao and Rita are now grown up. Rita tells him that all the tickets for today's seminar are sold out. Hao wants to go on a tour, but Rita asks him to stay until Thursday's seminar is finished. She also mentions that she's already paid in advance for a new camera. They both get ready for the seminar, and Rita fixes Hao's messy hair. Hao begins his seminar titled Introduction to Retrocognition. He explains that retrocognition is the ability to gain knowledge about past events. One participant asks if it's the same as astral projection. Hao explains that in astral projection the soul leaves the body and travels to another dimension. But in retrocognition, the subconscious mind enters a spiral of time, almost like time travel. Hao further explains the importance of a catalyst in the retrocognition process. A catalyst acts as a bridge between the past and the present, recording events at an atomic level and flowing through electromagnetic pulses. People with special abilities can use their Karen to witness the past from the original owner's point of view. Someone asks if Hao actually enters the person's body. Hao clarifies that he doesn't control the body. He simply observes it, something he calls hitchhiking. He also makes it clear that he cannot change the past. His Karen is just an invisible shadow that neither controls anyone nor communicates with him. From the outside, it looks like the person is asleep during this process, but it consumes a huge amount of mental energy. Then someone asks, what if a person fails to return from the past? Hao suddenly turns serious, and the scene flashes back to the day his grandfather never came back and died. Back in the present, Rita announces the end of the seminar. After it's over, Mr. and Mrs. Sujatmiko approach Hao. They tell him that their daughter, Sari, went missing from school 2 days ago, and despite searching everywhere, they still can't find her. Mr. Sujatmiko suspects that his daughter may have run away with a boyfriend, but as a mother, Mrs. Sujatmiko refuses to believe that for a second. The two of them get into a heated argument over their daughter's disappearance. Rita realizes that they are asking Hao to go 2 days back into the past and find Sari. Mr. Sujatmiko insists they should go to the police, but Mrs. Sujatmiko desperately begs Hao for help instead. The scene cuts to night. They arrive at Sari's school, where they meet her class teacher, Mrs. Wati. Even though entering the school at night is strictly forbidden, she allows them in after seeing their situation. Mrs. Wati takes them to the same room where Sari was last seen. She regrets not sending Sari home earlier that day. Hao promises Sari's mother that he will do everything he can to find her. He sits down at a machine and asks for something that belongs to Sari, a catalyst to begin the retrocognition process. Mrs. Sujatmiko hands him a pair of Sari scissors. Hao prepares for meditation, while Rita starts recording everything on camera. As Hao enters a deep meditative state, he connects with Sari's body from 2 days ago. He sees that night Sari sitting alone in the school quietly working on her sewing. Mrs. Wati notices her, tells her not to stay too long, and leaves. Now alone, Sari suddenly hears loud banging on the door. She asks who's there but gets no response. The knocking continues, growing more aggressive. Terrified, she slowly walks toward the door. She opens it, but no one is there. However, as she turns back inside, someone is already standing in the room unnoticed. Sari sits back down and continues working, unaware of the presence behind her. Suddenly the lights go out. In the darkness, Sari is shocked to see a dead body, and in panic, a needle pierces her finger. Hao, still in meditation, begins to feel the same fear and pain she experienced. But when Sari looks again, the body is gone. Panicked, she runs out of the room. And then suddenly, something drops right in front of her from above. Sari looks up, but there's nothing there. Suddenly, something lunges at her from the front and starts dragging her away. The evil force pulls Sari into a well, and at that exact moment, Hao snaps back to his senses. Seeing Hao terrified, Rita tries to calm him down. Hao tells her he now knows where Sari is. Hao asks Mrs. Wati for a rope. They head to a part of the school that no one had really explored before. Hao points toward a well hidden behind a tree. Rita says that Sari might have been kidnapped by a Pocong, an Indonesian shroud ghost, because these wandering spirits are drawn to dark, damp places like wells. As soon as they open the lid, they find Sari inside. Hao climbs down into the well to rescue her. He ties a rope around her, and together they pull her back up. Suddenly, a bunch of rats panic. Hao and his glasses fall off. The moment he puts them back on, he sees the Pocong standing right in front of him. Rita throws down the rope, and Hao quickly climbs out of the well. As soon as he's out, Sar's family thanks him over and over again. Rita advises them to take Sari home and perform a flower cleansing ritual to remove the evil presence from her body. After that, they seal the well shut. On their way back, Rita says that Hao's special power is really helping people. She asks him what the Pocong look like, but Hao is so exhausted that he falls asleep on her shoulder before he can answer. The next day, Hao visits his grandfather's grave and brings his favorite sweet, wajik. He places it there in his memory. Just then, a man with a shovel starts digging nearby and calls out to Hao. Almost as if in a trance, Hao walks toward him. The man shows him a gravestone with Hao's own name on it. Shocked, Hao suddenly falls into the grave. The moment he hits the ground, a burial shroud wraps around his body and the man begins burying him alive. Hao suddenly wakes up from the nightmare, and his mother lets out a sigh of relief. Rita jokes that Hao is heavier than a gorilla. It was really hard to carry him. His mother warns him not to use his retrocognition power, saying it's dangerous for his health. Hao insists he's just a little tired. Rita reassures his mom that she'll always stay by his side. His mother tells him to eat properly, and they all prepare for dinner. Later, when Hao goes to his room, he notices dirt from a grave scattered on the floor. The next day, Hao tells Rita about the grave dirt and says that the entity that took Sari wasn't an ordinary ghost. Its head wasn't wrapped in a burial shroud. It looked more like a bald skeletal figure. Rita is terrified. She believes that by saving Sari, Hao has now become the next target of that evil force. Meanwhile, Hao spots a strange man and starts following him. The man suddenly slips into a trial room. When Hao peeks underneath, he sees something horrifying. Grave soil scattered across the floor. Hao tries to pull back the curtain, but it never seems to end. Instead, it starts transforming into burial shroud fabric. After struggling for a while, he finally manages to move it aside and sees the man in the mirror. But the moment he looks away from the mirror, a terrifying entity suddenly appears right in front of him. Just then, Rita arrives and warns him, the evil now needs a new victim. And Hao could be next. On the other hand, Sari is living in constant fear inside her home. She keeps sensing that cursed presence in her room. She tells her mother that the evil spirit is following her. Her mother hugs her, trying to calm her down. But things take a dark turn when her mother starts changing the bandage on Sar's finger. Suddenly, her mother begins speaking in a strange, chilling tone. She says even a small wound can be deadly. She explains that black magic practitioners use injured fingers for rituals, and they won't stop until they cut Sar's finger off. And then, in a horrifying moment, she actually slices off Sar's finger. Sari screams in pain. Hearing her cries, her parents rush in, and as soon as they arrive, everything returns to normal as if nothing ever happened. After this, Mrs. Sujatmiko calls Hao and tells him about Sar's condition. Hao comes to visit them. She explains that ever since Sari returned home, she hasn't been eating or sleeping. Every time she closes her eyes, that same dark shadow, the entity, appears before her. Sari asks Hao if he believes her. Hao says yes, because that same evil force is now haunting him too. He promises her that no matter what, he will put an end to this. Hao then asks why the spirit is targeting her. Sari reveals something even more disturbing. She's not the first. Before her, several students from the same school had mysteriously disappeared. Exhausted and desperate, she begs Hao for help. The next day, they visit Miss Wadi, who finally reveals a dark secret. She tells them that two other students had vanished from the school. The first incident happened right after the school was built, and the second one occurred about 10 years ago. Tragically, both cases remain unsolved to this day. Sari's father loses his temper after hearing this. He lashes out at the school management for hiding something so serious and threatens to expose everything to the police and the media. But Hao calms him down, warning that if this gets out, Sari's privacy and reputation will be at risk. Hao asks for one more chance to resolve the situation. He then questions Miss Wadi about who else might know the school's history. She tells him about an old security guard named Salmon Hoodie, who had been working there since the school was first built and retired a few years ago. Hao decides to meet someone Hoodie, hoping to uncover the truth about the evil force and find a way to stop it. Rita warns Hao that what they're dealing with is far beyond his control, and it's a matter of life and death. But Hao replies that the evil entity won't stop until it destroys both him and Sari, so he can't just sit back and do nothing. Hao and Rita head to the former security guard, Mr. Salmon Hood's house. At first, Salmon's daughter Rizma says her father is busy. But when Hao insists that someone's life is at stake, Simon finally allows them in. Hao explains everything: how Sari went missing, and how he found her inside a well. He also reveals that he personally saw a bald Pong inside the well. Hearing this, Sun takes a deep breath and says he had once promised never to speak about these things, but now he has no choice. Saman reveals that he used to learn black magic under a powerful shaman named Walisdi. Walisdi was ruthless. He would take lives without hesitation in his pursuit of power and wealth. It's shown how he used dark rituals to kill multiple people at once. Eventually, the authorities discovered his crimes and sentenced him to death. With no way out, Walisdi made a final desperate pact with dark forces to save himself. He struck a deal with a jinn named Vanishing. Because of this pact, he became immortal, music, and after death, he returned as a Pocong. Hao explains that Sari is now living in constant terror of this evil spirit. Feeling sympathy for her family, he asks Mr. Salmon for help, hoping to find a way to end this nightmare. But Rita takes Hao and leaves the place. After they're gone, Salmon decides he wants to go help them. However, his daughter Rizma tries to stop him from getting involved in something so dangerous. Salmon says he can't just sit back and do nothing because he knows how many more lives could be lost. The villagers don't see him as a good man. So before he dies, he wants to do at least one good deed to atone for his sins. Saying goodbye to Rizma, he sets out. Meanwhile, on the way, Rita warns Hao that he's taking a huge risk by messing with retrocognition. She reminds him of what happened to his grandfather and refuses to be part of something so dangerous. Then she leaves him behind. Just then, Salmon arrives and tells Hao, "Let's send this demon straight to hell." On the road, Salmon reveals that after his wife's death, he gave up all his occult practices and repented. No one ever imagined that a high school would be built over Wiz's grave. Simon explains that Willis returns every 10 years to find a new victim, stealing souls through their fingers. He also says this evil entity only targets people whose Japanese birthday matches Walisdi Tuesday. Clean Hao is shocked because that's his birthday too. Sun wants to fix his past mistakes. When Hao asks about the plan, a mysterious voice suddenly comes through the car radio. The announcer calls out both Hao and Simon by name, saying their time is up. Hao turns off the radio, but then strange noises start echoing inside the car. He steps out and opens the trunk, but everything looks normal. Still, he's terrified. He gets back in and tries to start the engine, but it won't turn over. He keeps trying again and again until he's completely exhausted. In the middle of this extreme tension, they hear a chilling chant, and in the rearview mirror, Hao sees the demon. Hao desperately keeps trying to start the car as the creature crawls onto the roof. Finally, the engine roars to life and they speed off, reaching the school. But the moment Saman opens the trunk, the demon suddenly spits acid straight onto his face. Mr. Saman is brutally injured. Hao starts crying and screams for help. Before taking his last breath, Saman gives Hao a very important clue. Walisdi's grave is behind the banyan tree at the back. Now Hao is all alone. He takes Salmon's rings and sets out to find that tree. When he finally reaches the banyan tree, he uses his special power, along with Salmon's rings, to enter the scene of Walisdi's final ritual. At a certain point in the ritual, Walisdi's throat is slit. Then the scene shifts to the same moment shown at the beginning of the movie. Walisdi's body is being bathed and wrapped in a burial shroud. Preparations are made to bury her under the banyan tree. Suddenly, that creature, Pokehorn, appears and knocks Salmon's ring out of Hal's hand, causing him to lose connection with his catalyst. Meanwhile, back at home, Hal's mother is offering prayers when there's a knock on the door. She is shocked to see Rita. Rita asks where is, and his mother tells her he has gone to school. Hearing this, Rita gets angry because Hal went there alone, despite knowing the danger. At the same time, that evil force drags Hal inside a well. Rita rushes to the school, calling out Hal's name like a madwoman. Inside the well, Popcorn is chewing on Hal's finger. You might remember Saman mentioned that this creature sucked a person's soul through their fingers. While searching, Rita reaches the banyan tree, where she finds a shovel and Saman's rings. Meanwhile, Popcorn is slowly draining Hal's soul. Seeing the well open, Rita goes closer and finds Hal inside. She climbs down using a rope. Suddenly, Hal, who was floating in the air, falls down. Rita reaches the bottom. Just before Hal's soul is completely drained, she touches Salmon's rings to his hand, bringing him back to his senses. Rita tells Hal to stay calm and explains that the bald creature separated him from his catalyst and dragged him down there. Both of them promise that Mr. Salmon's death won't go in vain. They decide to defeat that evil force and start climbing out of the well. Rita climbs up first and tries to pull Hal up with the rope, but below Pokehorn is holding on to Hal. Suddenly, Hal slips and falls back down. He struggles to remove the burial cloth wrapped around his legs as the well starts filling with water rising up to his neck. Out of nowhere, Pokehorn emerges from the water. At that moment, Rita throws her amulet toward Hao, and somehow in the end, Hao manages to escape the well. After climbing out of the well, Hao, clearly shaken, reveals something shocking when, while Walisdi was buried, one of the knots on his burial shroud was left untied. That instantly triggers Rita's memory. She recalls that all of Pokehorn's dark powers are actually tied to the knots in that shroud. If they can somehow untie or cut every single knot, the evil spirit will lose its powers forever and disappear. Hao urgently tells Rita to grab a shovel from the car. They reach Walisdi's grave. First, they pour salt around it, forming a protective circle. Hao explains that as long as that circle remains intact, they'll be safe. Then, the two of them start digging. After a while, they hit wooden planks, the coffin. They open it and are stunned. The body looks completely fresh, like he died just yesterday. Not a single sign of decay. Hao tries to untie the knots on the shroud, but they're rock hard, like twisted metal wires. No matter how hard he tries, they won't budge. Then, Rita spots something near the corpse. The same dagger used to kill him. She lifts the body slightly, and Hao pulls the dagger free. He immediately starts cutting the knots with it. But suddenly, rainwater begins to wash away the salt circle, breaking their protection. And just like that, Pokehorn enters. Rita rushes to fix the circle, desperately trying to rebuild it. But at the same time, the corpse suddenly sits upright and attacks Hao, dragging him down. Rita screams in panic, digging frantically to pull Hao back out. But out of nowhere, Pokehorn appears, grabs Rita by the throat, and lifts her into the air, then violently throws her aside. Hao tries to fight back, but fails. Instead, Pokehorn grabs his hand and starts sucking on his finger again. Desperate, Hao grabs the dagger and launches one final attack. This time, he cuts through all the knots one by one, until finally Pokehorn loses. The evil spirit is defeated. Hao immediately rushes to Rita, calling her name over and over, begging her to wake up. After a tense moment, she regains consciousness. Even in pain, she jokes, asking if he finished off that bald freak. Hao gets emotional, relieved to see her alive. The scene shifts. Everything is finally peaceful. Sari is completely fine now. She says she can sleep peacefully again, and has even gone back to school. She thanks Hao and Rita from the bottom of her heart. Sari's father apologizes to Hao for doubting his powers before. He admits that he'll always be grateful to both Hao and Rita. Hao decides to cancel his historical tour plan. This entire incident made him realize that his special ability can actually help people. He believes this is what his grandfather would have wanted, and that he'd be proud of him. Taking a deep breath, Hao says his journey in the mysterious land of Java has only just begun. With this, the story ends here. Subscribe to this channel for more stories like this.